Let's talk about, you mentioned Garrett. Let's talk about this. This is going to be our highlight zone game of the week. We are guaranteed to have a team in 3A go to state. You've got Bishop Luers hosting Garrett. How do you see this one playing out? Because these are teams where they've taken two really different paths, where we saw Garrett and then beat Adams Central in week one, and we said, okay, I don't know how good Adams Central is because they graduated so many guys, but that win got progressively better as the season wore along, and Garrett continued to impress as the season wore along, whereas Bishop Luers, there were times in this season they just couldn't score enough, it felt like, to make a run like this, but yet in the postseason, the offense has really kicked it up. I mean, just two very different paths to semi-state this week.
Right, and you look at Garrett, and it's very impressive what they continue to do. And now it almost feels like, of course, it would come down to a road game at Bishop Luers to go to the state championship game, the 50th anniversary of 1974 when they did win the state championship. And yes, Luers is up a class, so now of course you have to go to Luers Field to figure out how to beat the Knights. But after what we saw with Garrett, down 28-14 early in that third quarter against Knox on Friday, you were like, is this it? And then Calder Hefty really just took over and really made all the plays that Garrett needed to, getting the ball out to guys like Parker Skelly. And it was just a very, very impressive come from behind game, because maybe one of the questions we had with Garrett is, well, what happens when they get behind by a couple of scores? And we saw what happened. They were able to come back and win. Conversely, you look at Luers, and I still don't feel like we've seen Luers play a complete 4 quarters of football. Very good. They had 2 touchdowns called back last week at Maconaquah in the first half, and they've let both Mississinawa and Maconaquah kind of make it close at the end. So it's going to take a complete 4 quarters for Bishop Luers, and can they do it when they absolutely need to at home in semi-state?
Yeah, you look at Luers' offense in the regular season, then in the playoffs. In the playoffs, they scored 42 versus Norwell, 41 versus Jay County, 34 versus Mississinawa, and then 31 against Maconaquah.
Yeah.
Like, the offense has really started to put it together. But like you said, you want them to play that complete game and just put some of these teams away the deeper we get in the postseason.
And they've taken care of 2 undefeated teams so far. To get to state, they're going to have to beat 3 consecutive undefeated teams.
And to me, it feels like Mississinawa and Maconaquah were Garrett's like them on steroids.
Yeah.
Similar teams, but as you mentioned, Guzman continues to get better. Like, he keeps showing up in the highlights as he gets older.
Yeah.
And this is just going to be a raucous environment from the Garrett folk that come down to Luers Field on Friday. I mean, I think it's just going to be an absolutely awesome experience for both sides of the football.
The most interesting thing for this game is, what's the situation going to be parking-wise and where all these Garrett fans are going to sit, because it's small over there on the visitor side. They can ring the fence, at Luers Field to watch, but our Garrett fans pulling in at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday to get a seat. I think it's going to be an interesting storyline to watch. There was a couple people asking online over the weekend, do they move this game? No, absolutely not. Luers isn't moving this game.
Oh, no. They do not want that at all.
Yeah, not at all. They're not accommodating anybody, and I don't blame them. So it's going to be tight confines at Luers Field on Friday.
Before we move on from this game, I want to get your thoughts on the Luers defense versus the Garrett offense. Garrett is predicated on the run game. Rubel, Hefty, Guzman, and then you take a look at what Luers' strength at, and we've talked about it many weeks, is defending the pass. And last week, Maconaquah was a pass-first team. And, D. Hogue and the guys in the defensive backfield are really where the strength is for Luers. To me, the question of the game is can they corral the Garrett run game? And how do the Luers guys in the front 7, try to stymie what has been a really effective Garrett run game this season?
And it's that defensive front for Bishop Luers has gotten progressively better over the course of the season. They lost some big parts of that last year to graduation. So it's taken almost a complete season, but I think they're in a better spot, Bishop Luers, particularly that front 7. But you're right, they're really going to have to step up and play well. We saw Luers take their lumps in the regular season against teams that could be more physical with them. And that naturally happens when you're a 3A facing 4A, 5A, 6A. But Garrett is very, very physical, and we'll see if Bishop Luers can hold up. I can't wait for this game. Luers, it's maybe not a surprise, but they've never gotten to a state championship game at 3A, and now they're a win away. And Garrett just seems to be a team on a mission, and one of those teams is going to see their season come to an end on Friday.